It's 11:45. Let's go.
Imagine, if you will, an exhibit in fear.
It looks a little spooky, boys. You think we should do this?
A place that appeals to your deepest and darkest fantasies.
Ooh, scary.
Your fascination with ghosts, monsters, and the many unearthly elements of the supernatural.
Welcome to the Waxwork.
Look.
Now this is killer.
Enjoy.
Wow, the glasses from Nutty Zombies from Hell.
Lose yourself in it.
Would you like a closer look?
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
What's up, Prozac Nation?
This week, we'll be discussing the horror classic Waxwork with, who's in it? Zach Galligan, David Warner, Patrick McNee.
Let me
Deborah
just say,
Plummer.
people who had one-hit wonder movies and then decided to follow it up with this.
Right. I would agree with that. That is absolutely true. It's sad, but true. Had you heard of this movie before?
No, nor had I ever seen it.
You never even heard of it? Nothing. This is
Never
all
even.
brand spank.
It was brand spanking new.
Why don't you give us your 30-second summary of Waxwork?
Ah, yes. So, in some Richie town that looks like, I don't know, Pasadena or something, someone opens up a waxwork or wax museum in a residential neighborhood. And as teenagers do, they love to go to wax museums.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? So they all roll in there and discover hinky business. People are disappearing. Not all at once. So they seek help from like an old kind of molestery looking uncle who shows them a grandfather's trunk full of, he was like a witch hunter. I don't know what the hell he was. He was an investigator of the paranormal.
Are you looking for me to jump in? It's hopeless.
We'll just say that. And they find a picture of the dude who was running the waxwork, but here he is 100 years before, looking exactly the same. Played by David Warner, who is, I love David Warner, always a market quality. So, anyway, so they get back in. Everyone are believers except for the dude from Gremlins. And when I'm jumping.
Do your thing. Do it.
All right. So basically, the way that people are disappearing in the waxwork world is you kind of stare into the eyes of the waxwork figures. And these are all like monsters and baddies and stuff like that. You get sucked in and you lose your... And you're part of their backstory where you end up being dead by the end. So the idea, according to Pervy Uncle, played by Patrick McNee from the Avengers, who I saw at the grocery store one time in Palm Springs, according to his story, is each of these vignettes, once they get a victim, then they all just kind of rise up and it's end times, I guess.
Right.
Sound about right? So, of course, what happens is it doesn't become end times and Gremlin dude saves the day. The end. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
This movie is bonkers. Bonkers. Traditionally, I would ask you what your feelings were going into this, but you had no feelings. You knew nothing about this movie.
feeling. As far as wax things, I mean, I saw all the other Murder in the Wax Museum on Elvira in 3D. You know, the bad 3D where it's a blue lens and a red lens kind of 3D. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen most of the Wax Museum kind of horror movies.
House of Wax,
even the more contemporary ones. For some reason, this one just slipped by. This one reminds me of like an episode of Night Gallery. For those who know, where it's little stories with inside of a big story.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
It could be Twilight Zone. It could be Night Gallery. You know, that kind of a thing. Or like Creepshow. Remember, Creepshow was a series of smaller stories. I mean, it just in this case, the smaller stories are not exactly fleshed out.
In the 90s, when it was just the 3 young Doherty kids still living in the house, Waxwork became a staple. It became a staple.
So you just traumatized the twins, who are what? Well, you're forcing them to watch this at 6 or what?
Yes, at 6. At 6 years old. No, I mean, even today, Brianna will come up and shout at me, "Mom, I need my caffeine." It's the craziest. Sweet Jesus. We just got to jump right in. I mean,
jump in, Brother Bear.
It's a total freak show. I mean, okay. Like you said, there's a bizarro Waxwork opens up in a residential neighborhood. And it is, we know it's Richie Rich because the guys wear blazers everywhere they go.
Right.
And
it's like the Billionaires Boys Club. And he's like, I don't know why they made him like the spoiled, rotten dude with Jeeves waiting for him at the door and giving him his coffee and a cigarette on his way to college, high school, jail. I mean, we don't know.
Looking at their house, I would say upper middle class. Does that mean you have a butler? Is that how it works?
Butler, the Pasadena is very expensive. A tear down is $1 million. So,
okay. So again, a butler. Jenkins, the butler, who waits on there every. Oh, poor Jenkins. Anyway, and there's really no reason for them to be Richie Rich. There's like nothing. It does nothing for it. In fact, I think they filmed half of the college scenes on Cal State Long Beach. So it's not like
funny.
He was at Harvard.
The pyramid was in the background?
Possibly. It's entirely possible. I don't know.
It has nothing to do with the story. The story is kids blunder into a wax museum and get sucked inside the stories.
Exactly.
That's the story.
So the 2 girls, China and Sarah. China's like kind of the sophisticated floozy.
Yeah, we would have called her a whore back in my day.
We don't judge,
but now we don't judge, and she's embracing her body. It's very feminist,
and she hangs out with Sarah, who is kind of repressed, but has secret S&M fantasies. Is that what you're supposed to think?
Well, in Valley Girl, she was attracted to the punk rock side. Remember that? So maybe this is a hangover. This is like after Valley Girl, she rolled into this, and this is a continuation of her arc.
Well, it's hilarious because they go to the Waxwork like that night, like the midnight showing. It's just like the 4 of them. Yeah. And she stops at the tableau or whatever of the Marquis de Sade. And she's like quoting, she's like, he once said that pleasure without pain was like food without taste. She's like, what? Where are you getting this? Like, have you been researching this?
And maybe this is part of the thing, man. Maybe the victims are attracted to things related to that. Wasn't the Wolfman like kind of hairy? I don't know.
We need to talk about this because they go on and say like these are vignettes of the 18 most evil people in history.
Right, and the Marquis de Sade, I don't think that really falls into that category.
Yeah, what about the Little Shop of Horrors creature or the space alien?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's just like,
how about the African tribal dude?
Well, I think he's supposed to be a voodoo guy.
Okay, and still.
Okay, I'm gonna read you all the different because
because it's 18 or 17.
It's 18. Because it's 6, and 6, the mark of the beast.
All right. Give me all the people and let me kibitz.
Oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. It's like, okay, we said Marquis de Sade.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name. Marquis de Sade.
De Sade.
Like
sadism. That's where you get sadism. Although I will tell you, I did read a book by him.
Yep.
It was mostly like a lot of celebration of butt stuff, quite frankly.
Maybe that's the book she was reading.
Yeah, my 14-year-old self was not ready for that. I was like, because he kept going on the exquisite this, the exquisite that. I'm like, oh, this is so boring.
So, okay, keep in mind the most evil people throughout history. Number one, Count Dracula. Dracula was a real person. However, this is not the historical Dracula. This is the Bram Stoker, Christopher Lee kind of deal.
Yeah.
The Phantom of the Opera.
Not even a real person.
Not a real person. A witch. Just a witch who you only see once. She kind of looks like a green gremlin looking dude.
So it's Wizard of Oz witch.
It's Wizard of Oz witch. Marquis de Sade.
Yeah, whatever.
That's a real historical thing.
Yes, was a real person.
A werewolf.
Never real.
A mummy.
Yeah.
Mummy.
Come on.
Again, not historical. And this is hilarious. There's that vignette where they go to ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
And literally they say the pharaoh Raoul.
I missed that.
Raoul. That famous Egyptian pharaoh Raoul. Anyway.
Oh my God.
There is a voodoo priest.
Maybe it wasn't Egypt. Maybe it was the pyramids at Quetzalcoatl or whatever.
Machu Picchu.
Picchu.
A zombie. Just a zombie, okay?
Not related to the witch doctor or voodoo priest?
Clearly not.
All right.
An axe murderer. A nondescript axe murderer.
Rando axe murderer. Because it's super evil to kill someone with an axe.
It's not good.
If it was an ice pick, you wouldn't have made the cut.
The Invisible Man.
Okay, come on.
Frankenstein's
sphere. All these people's sphere of influence, even if they were real, were so limited.
Yeah, it's true. Let me see. Frankenstein's monster. Again, not real.
Not real, not evil.
Kind of misunderstood, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would say so. I would say the Dr. Frankenstein would have been the evil one.
Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
Again, alien, not evil.
At one point she says, "Freed me."
I know, I was like, what? I even wrote that down. I almost busted out into song.
There was the baby from It's Alive.
Oh, God. Oh, God. And quite frankly, it looked better than the baby from It's Alive.
It absolutely did. There was a six-eyed alien creature.
From We Don't Know What.
There was a Cobra Man circus freak.
That was freaky looking, though. I want to see that movie. Actually, I'm putting that down on our list. There's a movie where people turn to snakes, and it's called...
There's that, but it's also Dreamscape.
Ooh.
That's another good
I'm not sure I ever saw that.
With Dennis Quaid and his most triumphant? Max von Sydow?
On a side note,
yes.
I watched a movie last night with young Randy Quaid. I was watching that Barbra Streisand What's Up Doc, and super young Randy Quaid is in it.
Very upsetting.
Continue.
Jack the Ripper, who was a historical figure.
And was a bad guy. Mr. Hyde. But not Dr. Jekyll?
Well, they couldn't do both. And Mr. Hyde, I literally was like, who in the hell? Because some of these I had to go back and look at the pictures. Mr. Hyde looks like a chimpanzee with a syringe in his hand. They cut to him one time. It was very confusing. So Mr. Hyde is one of the characters. Again, a literary, not historical figure.
Exactly. As far as we know.
And the last one, arguably the most controversial, is a golem. Do you know anything about golems?
This is all my knowledge of a golem. You write down its name, you write something down, and you put it in its mouth, and the golem comes to life and does your bidding. Well, it's from Hebrew mythology.
Yes. It's Hebrew folklore.
It's out of mud. It's made out of mud.
Clay.
But clay, you put something in its mouth to bring it to life.
But it's typically like kind of an avenging protector kind of character.
Yes.
It's not a villain per se.
Correct. I mean, I suppose it could be used for villainous purposes, but that doesn't make the golem evil. It makes the person using the golem evil.
Exactly. It's basically telling us that this movie's anti-Semitic.
That's right. What we're trying to say.
And I mean, it would have taken no effort at all to change this from, horrible people in history to, historical literary figures or movie characters, or, you know what I'm saying? Because they're
my God, check this out. I got it. Here's the idea. As soon as you said literary figures.
Yes.
So I say you use a bunch of benign literary figures. Like you could have like a Pride and Prejudice vignette. But then
Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth, and they get sucked through into that vignette thinking they're going to be in the beautiful English, in the Lake County or whatever.
Yep.
But then it's Pride and Prejudice and zombies on the other side. It's like,
No!
Now, wouldn't have that been a better story?
It would be a different story. That's for damn sure.
That could have been, I mean, it could be poems of Elizabeth Bennet Browning, but once you get sucked in, there's like a twist to it or something.
Well, basically, what happens is they arrive. I'm just skipping over all that goodness. They arrive at the waxwork, and if you enter the area of the waxwork, you enter the reality of the vignette. So their buddy Tony drops his Zippo lighter into the werewolf exhibit, and when he crosses over the rope, bam, he's in, what is it, the 1800s or 1700s, in the woods, and there's the crazy werewolf.
There's the crazy werewolf. That was so boring.
How dare you?
And then he becomes a werewolf. Are you going line by line about everything?
I'm going line by line. This is important. Well, no, the movie, I have to say that I'm jumping all over the place. The movie starts off with somebody being murdered, right? His face getting pushed in the fire, which doesn't seem to be a very, why not just get a gun?
Yeah, it doesn't seem a very effective way of killing someone. And like a lot more work than necessary. I mean, wait till they fall asleep, knock them in the head, but trying to hold a grown person their head into the fire, right. That seems like not a good plan.
Not a good plan. Well, and we don't know what this scene has to do until later in the movie they say, oh yeah, that's from 40 years ago when your grandfather was murdered. And the only way we were supposed to know it was from 40 years ago is because they played like some 40s, what
was like the Andrews
Miller Orchestra. Yeah, exactly. Because it was like Glenn Miller. It was like some weird jaunty, like big band music going on as this person's being shoved into the fire face first.
Yeah, that didn't really matter. Yeah, the werewolf thing was boring. There was a zombie. One dude gets sucked into the zombies. The Marquis de Sade was interesting.
It was not interesting. It was. I remember. At
first, they wouldn't have been calling them sluts and stuff back in those. So that kept bothering me. I'm like, they're into this, and they surrounded themselves with people who are into it. So, and I'm not sure if slut was popular in France back then.
Here's an interesting fact. There were no accents in this movie anywhere. I mean, the closest you got was John Rhys Davies. Sallah from Raiders of the Lost Ark played the werewolf. He needed a paycheck too, evidently.
He needed a paycheck because I always liked him. And he was in some solid movies. And Absolutely. Then he started doing this shit.
Started doing this stuff. But it was like Dracula, American accent.
Well, because do you know who Dracula is?
The actor?
Yes.
Miles O'Keefe.
Miles O'Keefe from Tarzan. You don't know how many women in my high school had posters of this young man. And the beauty of Tarzan is he never had to speak. He was just half naked and ripped the whole time, he and Bo Derek.
They did not, thankfully Dracula did not take his shirt off. So
thankfully, that seems like a ripoff. Like, The Marquis de Sade was flashing his fur left and right. I think Dracula should have. They should have switched roles, perhaps.
Again, Marquis de Sade, no accent. Not even again, American accent. Good times.
I looked at that dude too because he looked familiar, but really he's just a working actor.
He's just a working
here,
actor.
One episode there for all his life.
He's a working actor. Oh God! And there's a scene where she does go into Dracula's, like China goes into the Dracula room, and they
Dracula one was the best.
It was at this point we go, oh, this is a comedy. Yeah. It's gross and bloody, but it's like slapsticky. They give her a bowl of just viscera.
Yeah,
a bowl of viscera, and she's like, oh, steak tartare. It's been a while, and I was like, is that what steak tartare looks like? Just like a bowl of just guts, basically. And they're like, how about some sauce? And they pour some more of like red viscous liquid into it. Do you want
to hear my steak tartare story?
Lay it on me.
So I was in Belgium, and they were calling it like cannibal meat.
Yes.
And it was not what I thought. Because, our father raised us on just eating raw hamburger with garlic salt.
That's all you need.
It was kind of sweet and ketchup-y with a raw egg. And no blood sauce poured on top. And
it's not just a bowl of viscera.
You smear it on toast. It's not necessarily a chunky bowl of viscera.
So, oh God. So there's that scene, sweet Jesus. Oh God. So,
I just blew your mind, man. Blew your mind.
Sweet Jesus. I'm trying to think. I have a whole list of crazy notes here.
No, but Dracula's the best one. No, the other part of Dracula that was good is when she discovers where the steak tartare or cannibal meat is from.
Yes.
And the dude, you see her boyfriend like pinned to a table.
Yes.
Except they've like removed like his calf. You just have like a crazy bone sticking there.
Right.
It was nasty.
Yeah, they'd taken the meat for the dinner that night, literally just from his shin and his calf on one leg. And he's just like tied to a table. Then there's like a rat on the table.
Having a conversation too.
Right.
Never mind that. Wouldn't you? First of all, the blood loss.
Yes, ignoring the blood loss and the shock, he would have long since been dead.
He's bebopping and scatting.
He was great. He was great. Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay, so Tony and China bite the dust unceremoniously. So Mark and Sarah, they decide to go to the cops, right? This is a scene that was bizarre because people have been, they've been disappearing for like weeks now. And when he goes to tell the cops about what he's seen, the cops are like ridiculously belligerent to him. One point they go to the guys, he's like, oh, it's the Waxwork. Let's go to the Waxwork. Let me show you. And the cop's like, you shut up. You sit here and be quiet. It's like, why? Why are you being so belligerent? It was ridiculous.
I hate you damn kids.
It was literally like that kind of thing. It's like, you came all this way. You believe me enough to show up on the guy's doorstep, and yet now you're telling me to shut up, be quiet. Sweet Jesus. Later in the movie, we find out crazy uncle, what the hell is his name? Patrick McNee played, I'm not going to find it.
Uncle Wiggly Fingers.
Uncle Wiggly Fingers. You know him, don't you? Anyway, he basically tells us the whole plot, basically. That the grandfather had these, what are they? Little pieces of history that were connected to each of these famous historical bad people.
What's the history of the mummy, the Invisible Man? Right. What was the history of the Invisible Man?
What was the history of Night of the Living Dead? What was what they were doing?
Barnabas, don't you know?
Sir Wilfrid. Sir Wilfrid was friends with their grandfather 40 years ago, and David Warner was like his assistant, his grandfather's assistant, and he killed him, and that was the murder we saw. The artifacts, and is now open, and now 40 years later biding his time, evidently,
to move into the neighborhood of his former friend's family.
Coincidentally,
yes,
to open up a waxwork in a residential neighborhood. And basically, so if 18 people enter these tableaus and are murdered, one victim for each tableau, then the world ends. It was kind of a weird, non-specific bad thing.
But does the world end because these people will be loose, or it ends because it just there's a white light and we're all gone? And what
not clear.
And what is David Warner's? What's the point of that? And then because he'll be dead too. And
unclear.
I'm always confused about non-religious doomsdayer. It only seems to happen in movies.
Well, I think they kind of intimate that he's like kind of a devil worshiper, or he's a witch person, or some kind of thing. But it's like literally they ask him, "Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to end the world?" And he says, "Well, somebody has to."
Yeah. See.
You like that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No.
Well, then now that you say that.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Yeah.
So, oh, sweet Jesus. So there's that craziness going on. And I have to jump right to the end.
All right.
Where it totally goes off the rails. And I read somewhere, this is kind of a sneak peek behind the scenes. Basically, they ran out of money. And they only had a couple days left. That's why the last 15 minutes just denigrates into just bedlam. Where it's like, oh God. Patrick McNee also had already said, if he succeeds, then we won't be able to stop him. Like, if he succeeds in doing this, then it's too late. And yet,
but apparently, that is wrong.
Patrick McNee shows up with like 30 randos in his like wheelchair with like cardboard, like
and by
stuff
randos, it's a bunch of octogenarians, and so it's like elderly people with sticks.
Yes, with swords and axes. They show up just in time because now all of the tableaus have come to life. So it's not just 18 of the murderer creatures. You also have 18 of the victims who are now alive but evil for some reason.
Oh, yeah. And we skipped the part. Let me just stop you there for a second. We skipped the part. The reason that Gremlin dude, I don't know how he has this special knowledge, but when you get sucked into a vignette, if you don't believe, it cannot hold you.
Yes.
But strangely enough, the minute these other people were sucked in, they had no free will, except for him.
Right. Well, he tries to run away from the zombies, opens up the gate of the graveyard, and then just goes up right against like the edge of the vignette. It's like it goes, and that kind of reminded him, oh yeah, this is fake.
Oh yeah,
I don't believe in you.
Forgot.
Right. So he jumps out.
But like the Marquis de Sade thing, what about that? I mean, clearly it was bang smack. I'm totally into this. It wasn't even a matter of do I believe this is really happening or not. It was like, bring it on. They're fully into the character.
Well, and that's the thing, because she was fully into it anyway.
Yeah, she was into it anyway. She was into
it.
They had to drag her out of there.
He did. At one point, she's grabbing old Desade's like hip boots and going like, "Oh, don't let him take me."
That's right. Please, master, please.
Dude, it's funny. Years ago, Brianna showed this movie to Tim, her husband.
Yes.
Because she was like, you got to see this movie. And he's like, it was mildly amusing, but then it denigrates into some kind of S&M fantasy. And I'm like, it does. They spent, I swear to God, 20 minutes with the Marquis de Sade whipping her as she kind of moans. Good times. It was like an episode of Silk Stockings or Red Sea Diary.
He's like, she's had her first orgasm.
At the touch of the whip. Right. It's a lot of good, horrible stuff. Oh, God. So the last 20 minutes is just total anarchy with just people just fighting each other. People fighting. But now it's like everybody has to have like bizarro one-liners. Did you notice that?
No, share.
It was
share.
like the football player who got killed by Frankenstein or whatever.
Yeah.
He goes up to Sarah, and goes, "Kiss me, Sarah," and she goes, "Kiss this," and like kicks him in the balls. There's a lot of it was like, what the hell is going on? People like the little baby is like grabbing this guy's ankle, and he kicks the baby off and then shoots it.
Oh, you're coming up to one of my favorites. Is it literally Dracula becomes a vampire?
Yes,
and they like snatch him up. He's just like a bat, so they're holding it by its feet and just shooting it, and sauce is flying everywhere.
Well, the guy who catches it goes, "Make my day,"
Oh.
and shoots Dracula. Like, what the hell is this?
Make my millennium.
One thing we're skipping over is the manservant doorman of David Warner.
Yes, what about him?
Do you remember who he is?
No.
Michu?
Oh, I kept thinking of the tall guy. Oh, as soon as that door opened, I was like, oh, this is a conspiracy. This is a freaking...
Your secret love!
I knew exactly who it was.
But absolutely.
For those that are not actually part of the family, my sisters perpetuate this notion that I, as a small child, was in love with Michu, who is from Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, because my family took us to the circus. I think we had to drive to like Pasadena or LA to go see Ringling. Back in the day when they used to have huge, like 3 rings.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know if Barnum and Bailey is still around, but it was down to a single ring.
Well, back in the day, you could have freaks. I don't know if that's the good old days or what.
He was like what do they call it? The master of ceremonies or whatever back in the day. There was no freak show in the 70s that I'm aware of. This isn't like Lobster Boy, and we're not in Florida.
This is freaks.
It's not gabagoo, gabagoo.
Yep.
But anyway, so we had a program, and I hung a poster of Michu. So two of my eviler sisters have perpetuated this blasphemy and lies.
You loved Michu a little bit, though. There was a little bit of love in your heart.
Did you see what he looked like in Waxwork? Because that's what he also looked like 10 years earlier. But for those who are not familiar with Ringling Brothers Circus, tell the folks in the audience how else they might remember Michu.
I have no idea.
Alf.
He was Alf?
He was Alf.
Well, not the voice. He was the body. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Interesting. I had no idea about Michu's checkered past.
He was Alf, and no, it was not the voice, because otherwise Michu's voice sounds like an Eastern Bloc person on helium.
Right. Well, okay. David Warner had 2 manservant / butler.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the
tall
dude.
There was a tall dude, basically.
Yeah.
And then there was a little dude who, I swear to God, is like 2.5 feet tall. Really? And that's Michu.
Yeah.
Michu.
He was the smallest person in the world at the time.
He may still be the smallest person
He
in the
may
world.
not be with us. I'm not sure about that.
But there's a scene where Sarah literally picks him up and tosses him into Audrey 2's mouth.
Oh,
Feed me.
I missed that.
You have to, if you ignore any other part of this movie, you have got to watch the last 20 minutes, because it is bonkers. It is so bizarre, because it's just a cacophony of craziness. People fighting each other. At one point, Patrick McNee gets attacked by the werewolf, and I could have sworn he said, "Don't worry about me, I'm old." And that's the end of Patrick McNee. He gets his head ripped off. So there we go. Good times.
All right. Michu passed away in 2016.
Lovely. Lovely, lovely. So, sweet Jesus.
He was only out for the first season.
Okay. Makes sense.
I wonder who they threw in after that.
Do you have any other highlights you'd like to talk about?
I'm still discussing Michu. All right. He was in HR Puff and Stuff, Big Top Pee-wee, Look Who's Talking, Dear John,
Okay.
Freaked, Warlock the Armageddon, and Death to Cupid. About a third of those I actually know. He's mom's age.
Are you ready?
Born in 1939 in Budapest.
Budapest. Well, he had a crazy accent. European
He is
accent,
Hungarian.
So. Very good. Are you ready to go to behind the scenes?
I'll tell you behind the scenes. There's the dude from Gremlin, the girl from Valley Girl, the guy from the Avengers. I'm missing one. I wrote this down.
Okay, that's the cast.
That's all I have. And Jonathan Rhys Davies from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And that's all I have. Tell me, what did I miss?
Okay, there's quite a bit, actually. There's the scene where the police officer is looking at the photos of the missing people at his desk.
Yes.
Those missing persons flyers are actually from Lost Boys. They recycled the prop for this movie.
Oh my God, if only they had like a picture of Kiefer Sutherland. That would have been fantastic.
If only!
If only.
3 characters that were supposed to be in displays, but they weren't able to keep because of legal reasons.
Hitler?
Hitler. No, it was, which he should have been if it's the most evil people in history, for God's sake.
Pol Pot, Hitler, Stalin, where are those?
Hotel Rwanda,
dude. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Not in this show,
Not even a Lizzie Borden or anything. It was,
No.
They should have gotten rid of the old Hollywood monsters.
Jason Voorhees was supposed to be up there. And in fact, there's the scene where David Warner is talking to the jock, and they're looking at the Phantom of the Opera display.
Yes.
And he literally goes like, "Hey, that's the mask from Curse of the Phantom." And David Warner goes, "They made a movie about this? They'd make a movie about anything." That was all supposed to be about Jason.
Oh.
That was all supposed to be like, "Hey, that's the mask of Jason Voorhees." But they had to change it to the Phantom. So, very sad. The Thing. So the space alien in the Arctic tableau was supposed to be The Thing. John Carpenter's
with the thing
movie.
with all the eyes?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that looked more coherent than the actual thing from The Thing.
Okay, now you're speaking classic. And there was supposed to be a tableau with 5 children from Village of the Damned.
Oh, why couldn't they get the rights to that?
For whatever reason.
I love Village of the Damned. Children of the Damned, the damned.
The damned. Kane Hodder, who played Jason Voorhees in at least 4 of the Friday the 13th movies, played Frankenstein in this movie, uncredited.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's important to know.
I guess.
The writer-director Anthony Hickox wrote this screenplay in only 3 days.
What?
You'll be shocked to hear.
I am shocked to hear. Wow, how about that?
Who could it be? Then, what was I going to say? Oh, the Marquis de Sade scene.
Yes.
Where the guy, the de Sade is whipping the girl, but he's talking to like this British prince.
Yes.
With the crazy red hair. That's the director. Oh,
the one who kept calling her the whore?
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
To make it even more bizarre, they were dating at the time. And when they broke up after this movie was over, he made Waxwork 2 in 1992 and had to recast her role because she wouldn't work with him again.
Well,
so, there you go.
Wasn't she killed in this one?
No.
Oh.
They live.
Oh, well.
The bowl of viscera was actually made of rhubarb, watermelon, and strawberries, which makes me feel a lot better.
Why was it black?
Well, I'm sure they put some sauce in it. I don't know, some kind of sauce. I'm not going to ask what kind of sauce.
What? Secret sauce.
Some secret sauce.
Next.
Michael Gough, Sir Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Donald Pleasance were all considered for the role of Sir Wilfrid. But they all passed.
Of course they did.
And McNee said, "Where do I sign?"
McNee was not doing a lot at that time, except for hanging around Palm Springs, apparently.
Pretty
He
much.
was an interesting character. You know, he was raised in a brothel.
That is an interesting story.
It is. Go ahead. Continue on.
I think that's about it. Like I said, they ran out of money, which is why it turns into a total like barroom brawl at the end, where it's just literally just people being set on fire, people like getting knocked into things, the sets smashing into each other. And again, it's like they were all reanimated, which is supposed to be the end of the world, but clearly not.
Clearly not. Clearly, they also don't have any secret powers. Because a bunch of 80-year-old, 70-year-old, 60-year-old men were able to kick their ass. And teenagers.
Pretty much. Well, the place gets burned down, and basically everybody dies except for Sarah and Mark, who escape, and the scary little hand.
Oh.
That is crawling around after
So is
them.
that the star of Waxwork 2, the crazy hand?
It's called Waxwork 2, The Crazy Hand.
We should have had this movie back to back with the what was the movie?
Body Parts.
We should have had these two connected somehow.
I don't doubt it. Okay, let's go to the cast. You talked about it briefly.
David Warner, he's the star.
Zach Galligan, you know him from Gremlins. He was the main guy, and this is pretty much the height of his career.
Yep. No, that was the height of his career. Gremlins.
Deborah Foreman, Valley Girl, April Fool's Day. She had a very small role in Real Genius. She played Sarah.
No, her biggest thing was definitely Valley Girl. And did you know they redid that like last year?
I think I did know that. I didn't see
garbage because I love Valley Girl.
China is played by Michelle Johnson, who prior to this, her most famous thing was she was in Blame It on Rio.
Oh, Jesus. I remember being on a plane watching that back in the days when they had the one screen and you just had to frickin' watch whatever was there.
I saw Blame It on Rio.
Like I said,
it's creepy.
It's garbage. Creepy. We're not recommending it. I'm giving you one. Oh my God, Richard Dreyfuss. One Richard Dreyfuss out of 5.
He's not even. Richard Dreyfuss is not in Blame It on Rio.
It doesn't even matter.
It's Michael Caine and Joseph Bologna.
But I'm still only giving it one Richard Dreyfuss.
There's nothing scarier than like 57-year-old Michael Caine having a romance with like 19-year-old Michelle Johnson or whatever it is, and Demi Moore is in there for good measure.
That just sounds like every day in Hollywood. Back to the cast.
David Warner has been in frickin' everything, as you might imagine.
As not an evil character in The Omen.
No, he was
the priest who got skewered.
He's not the priest. He was a photographer.
He was a photographer. He was dressed in black. But I love David Warner. He's been in he's the baddie in so many of my favorite movies. Yep. Time After Time.
Time After Time. Yep. It's been a ton of stuff. I'm not even going to go through it. He was in Mary Poppins Returns like 2 years ago. He's still handling his biz. He's
still handling his biz. At one time, I thought he was kind of hot. Not so much anymore.
Not so much. Like we said, the werewolf was John Rhys Davies, who we know from
The Mighty Have Fallen, from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and what was his other big film?
He was Gimli in all the Lord of the Rings movies, for God's sakes.
Oh, God, he's
he redeemed himself.
He's unrecognizable.
We talked about Count Dracula was Miles O'Keefe. You remember him from Ator the Fighting Eagle? No, we don't. Sweet Jesus.
Trust me, he was beautiful in Tarzan, where he's like, monkey man with grunt talk.
That's all you need.
Are you being beamed up? What is that sound?
I'm next to the garage, so the garage door is opening.
Okay.
Patrick McNee played Sir Wilfred. He was obviously in the Avengers from the 60s, the spy show with Emma Peel.
And you remember Emma Peel from Game of Thrones.
She's been in a ton of stuff. She's the hardest working woman in show business. I agree. Diana Rigg. By the way. More recently, to us, he was in The Howling. Remember, he was Dr. George Wagner.
Oh, yes.
And he was Roger Moore's sidekick in A View to a Kill as Tibbet. There you go. Good
I always
times.
liked him,
I mean,
but he does a lot of garbage.
Do I want to talk about this guy? Kenneth Campbell played Marquis de Sade, and he's just been in a ton of stuff.
He was on some soaps. He's working actor. One episode here. His longest stint was Another World, which I don't even know how long that's been off the air. Remember, there used to be a lot of soaps.
Yeah, you'd recognize him, but he's not like, oh, my favorite.
Yeah, it's all one episode here, one episode there.
Yep. So let's go right to the ratings. Are you ready? This movie currently has a 60% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. That's as close as you can get to being rotten without actually being rotten, is 60. But the audience score is 46%.
Oh,
shocking.
The fans say
worse.
It's even shittier than that. I was frankly going to give it a slightly higher score. I'm going to give it 3.5 cracks of the whip from the Marquis de Sade. Because it is just a wacky mess, you know. This is what you pop on. You're 20-something years old. You know, the bars are closed. You know, back when we had bars. But you're not quite ready to go to bed. That's when you put this on, and you'll enjoy it.
It's obviously campy.
Yeah,
it's campy by design, and if you're down with that, this movie's kind of a hoot. It's not fine cinema or anything, but it's fun. It's fun. It gets the job done for me as far as I'm concerned. Although the title, I keep wanting to call it Waxworks, but it's just one. It's Waxwork.
That means like one sculpture? There's a single one?
Could be. I gave it 6 out of 7 candles. I figure wax, candles, whatever. I think it's fun. Yeah, thank you. I think it's fun. Don't look too deeply into the plot unless you want to watch the Egyptian scene with the Pharaoh Raoul, which is very important.
I think this
Jesus.
would make an amazing like off-Broadway musical because it's so campy and so wacky that you throw in a couple of snappy songs. This could be a hit.
I agree.
Boom. Get on that. Let's get on that. This will help.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, call him up.
Call us up, Lin. We can.
We'll handle our biz.
No, you'll need to get the rights because we have no money, but we'll be there to
We're on board.
Ideas if you do most of the work. Boom.
Speedball ideas. Is that what we're calling it? Interesting. So thank you very much for joining us. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Email us at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die at Gmail. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Like, share, subscribe, and rate if you have something nice to say. Otherwise, keep it to your damn self.
That's right.
Aaron, you are on Twitter.
I am the Cult of Aaron. Send me your movie ideas. Tell me why you liked it. Boom!
So, thank you very much, and be well.
Oh, Jesus, people. You know, wear your mask and stay home. Don't tell me that you got to just get out of your house and go to a hotel somewhere. Piss off.